Alrighty, what's going on, Macro Perspective peeps? I'm super excited to have this conversation today with Samantha Sargent. She is Stait co-founder and runs truly the Stait for Women side of things, and she has a plethora of experience, knowledge, accreditations in this industry. She's been featured in like Vogue, featured in Women's Health and Fitness, Cosmopolitan, Holistic Bliss, just has an extensive knowledge from Australia to British magazines and other media outlets. And one of the things that we love to talk about is obviously all health. I think what we want to do with this conversation, is really showcase the power of women's health, what Samantha's really passionate about, and how we got to Stait, or like what the big things are for Stait. But yeah, Samantha, thank you so much for coming on, and I really appreciate continuing the conversation with Stait.
Oh, thank you for having me on, and thank you for such a wonderful intro. It's lovely to be on your show. I'm flattered.
I love it. Well, no, seriously, thank you. And I know that Sean came on and talked primarily men's stuff. I think it's great. I think that episode will do. I think this has got to be the adjunct. We got to talk about women's health today. We like to highlight the person and just ask, what was your story? Like, what got you interested in health to be as a career? Was there like a pivotal moment? Did you get pushed into it somehow? Were your parents like that? Or were they not like it? And you're like, hey, I got to make a change. I didn't grow up with this environment. I need to figure this out. What was it for you that made you go, I need to go into the health and wellness realm?
As a kid, we grew up really healthy, like what was considered healthily. We weren't allowed soft drinks at home. My mum was strict with that. She was a very traditional mother. She cooked us breakfast, eggs and bacon before we went to school, and three square meals a day. She always cooked it. So I grew up very healthily, but on hindsight, not so much really, in terms of what I now know of studying nutrition. And then when I was in my teenage years and early 20s, I really burnt the candle at both ends and did what so many teenagers and early 20s people did. Smoked a packet of cigarettes a day, partying till 2-day parties, just excess, you name it, addictive personality here. Yeah, I'll raise my hand up. So at 21, I made a radical change in my life, and I've always loved food. And I originally wanted to be a chef and enrolled in the Cordon Bleu in Switzerland, but then someone convinced me not to when I did work experience in hotels. But I still really loved food. So when I was in my mid-20s, I enrolled in college and did a diploma of nutrition. And that was very much based on holistic nutrition and preventative care. So let's not get sick in the first place. And it was very much based on symptomatology and diagnosis and how to support the body to enable it to be the best it can be. So you don't get sick. Inevitably, we are going to come across toxins, especially in the modern world that we live in. But how can I best arm my body with what it needs to thrive? So it was a fantastic foundation of 3 years of study, which set me up on that path to really then just for the last 20 years since then, I've just dove deeper into that space. So I hope that helps answer the question. It's a big love of mine. I love food. I love cooking. I love making food. I love research more.
Wrong well right now.
Say that again, Seamus. Sorry, I didn't.
You and Marcos are going to get along real well right now.
Yeah, it's funny because like the thing that I became like super passionate about is coming full circle, like right at this very moment. Actually, today I had a sit down in a meeting with. They're doing it's like a non-traditional school. So basically, these are athletes. They're young kids, and they are devoting a good deal of time for their athletic performance. And then they're looking to basically, it's almost like they're kind of co-opting it. So there's some other people that do kind of the like homeschooling, but like a co-op, right? So they get all these different people to come in. They all kind of like teach each other, which in the States is becoming far more popular. I feel like every month or every year. So I had the opportunity to sit down with like 30 kids today and just talk about nutrition in like a very basic form. And it was funny because at the end of it, she's like, well, I didn't know what to expect, but we had 2 other people here before you and they did not do what you did. And I was like, what do you mean? It was like you had them engaged, you talked about things, you like made it like relatable, right? Like they were approaching it from like a dietetic side of things, Seamus.
Yeah.
And it was like, it wasn't connecting with the kids. I was like, well, funny for you because I'm really passionate about this thing because I was them. I wanted someone to come to me and tell me what I need to do to get the best performance possible. And, that driving force of nutrition and understanding is like the person was like kind of thrown off. She's like, I didn't know, again, I didn't know what to expect, but it's so nice that you like want to do this for kids. I'm like, I want to be them. I want, like, the only way I know how to go about doing these things is just to try to give back to these kids. Right. Because then it gets me wanting to focus on understanding things. And then also, Samantha, why it ties together is we're going to be teaching them how to cook. So not only do I'm going to like talk about the like theory behind it, but like, hey, we're going to bring in some people that are chefs that are clients of mine, and we're going to actually sit there and like learn these basic life skills as well. So like you say, Le Cordon Bleu, I actually thought about that too after I finished my like first year of trying to play sports, and I was like, I'm a failure. It's over. I told my parents I was just going to become a chef. I was watching Food Network like crazy and Chop Kitchen like crazy, and here we are now, and I'm bringing chefs in to try to talk to kids. So it's pretty hysterical.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. I mean, get them when they're young. The number of like 20-year-olds that don't know how to cook, or even 30, 40, 50-year-olds. And it's like, whoa, good on you.
Yeah. 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 And so
It's something, yeah, Marcus and I kind of talked about this, is like ever the home economics classes kind of dropped in like the US, like cooking just kind of dropped. So it's kind of like left to, for health, tradition of parents to continue that thing. But sometimes it's hard. I think Marcus and I talked about that too, where it's like, if you're looking at the average American, I know you're in Australia, so I do apologize if it like doesn't relate, but it's like you got people that are working more. The school system is flooded with non-traditional type foods that's just like easy package. And like the cooking is a skill that has been like lost. Like it's been very lost. So it's like if the parent can't do it, the school doesn't do it, who's teaching it? And I know I love that Marcos. I think he did like a cooking class live on Zoom a few weeks ago, and it was kind of cool to see that. And it's like I think it's up to these different communities to kind of help out.
So true what you say, Seamus. I mean, like if you think about how times have changed, like both parents are now working as opposed to, my day and, even before that, it was possible for a single person's income, like conventionally the man, to be able to afford to pay for the house and the kids and the whole life thing. But now, because of cost of living, and this is going to, I probably shouldn't go down this one because this is a political one, but like, it's just all geared up for people just to be poor, really, with taxes. I mean, I know in Australia, we are taxed almost like somewhere between 70 and 90% of our income goes to taxes in some way, form, some shape or form. So it's like people have to go to work, the man and the woman have to go to work. The cost of living is so high, which is tragic because back in my day, I used to sit on my grandma's, when I was like 3 or 4 and watch her cook and watch my grandpa make bread. And my mum was a stay-at-home mum, and, things have changed now. So it's very easy to say, oh, it's the mother's fault because she's not teaching her child to cook. But I think it's a sign of the times. And it's such a huge topic that it's like, how do we get that back where our kids are actually encouraged to experiment and play and make a mess. And amazing, Marcos, that what you're doing is going into those environments to actually get kids inspired and excited again, because I think most kids are excited. They come into the world and they just ask a million questions and want to know everything, and society drums it out of them. And yay for you for going there and giving them that excitement and interest again for food.
yeah, like you're right though. Like society has now been shaped. Both parents are busy. It's also not an excuse for kids to not learn how to do it, right? There's literally anything you could possibly imagine right in front of you and in your fingertips, right? But like they don't know because they're expecting, there's like almost this expectation for kids to be taught, right? Like kids are like, we're ready to learn, just tell us how to, right? So if you go in there in the flesh versus in this virtual setting, they're like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna get sucked into the algorithm, versus like, oh my God, this guy came in there and like inspired that thing. And like that's what I'm trying to get back to, is the inspirational piece and just showing up. And like I will say this till I'm blue in the face, nothing beats showing up in the flesh, right? Like I love virtual meetings, but we would all agree that this would probably be a much better podcast if we could all get together. Granted, it's really cool because you're halfway across the world, right? But but if both parents are working and the environment isn't conducive to the parents getting home and cooking a high quality meal, then it does fall on the kids. But it also is, part of society's, goal of education to the kids to show them how to get started, right? So, hey, I'll be the driving force. I might write a grant, screw it, figure out the next thing to get to the next phase. And I'm very passionate about that because, you should learn how to eat and create those delicious meals, because at the end of the day, it's going to be cheaper. You're not spending, the upcharge of DoorDash plus the convenience plea plus the already added on tip plus the additional tip just to get Taco Bell delivered to your door.
Dude, it's a $10 meal becomes a $40 meal.
Yes, exactly. Right. So you could literally cook for the whole family. And I mean, again, the greatest thing that happened today was at the end of it, one of the kids came up and asked a question, like as I was leaving. He's like, hey, like, could certain things help me supplementation wise to recover quicker and get back to play? I had an injury. I think it's like a mild tear with something in my ankle. What would you do? And I was like, all right. And he's like, I also have some like tightness. And I was like, all right, two things. One, I'm not the tightness specialist, but go to Kelly Starrett, go watch some videos. He'll tell you how to, foam roll and soft tissue stuff. But from a supplementation lens, some collagen, some vitamin C to help with like repair. And then everything else we talked about today. It's all you need. Just like start with that, like bare bones. Right. And that's how I knew it was like, oh, like they are willing to learn. That's all it took was like the one kid at the end of it. And there was a few of them. Some of them thanked me, and I was like, this is exactly what it's for. And I can't wait to like develop and create something that hopefully can grow, not only for this like smaller subset of these kids, which are, they're paying a premium in a sense to be there, and their parents are obviously trying to get them to a professional athlete level, which I think is amazing, but they're also still focusing on studies. But to like almost be that adjunct kind of professor role is, again, to me, I mean, I've always loved teaching. So, it was my first job, and I'll always be a teacher.
Beautiful. I mean, well, you'll have impact those kids for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, it happened to me. And, then in steps the next questions of like, hey, we're getting into physical performance and supplementation and, health, which is why you're here, obviously. So, let's ask those questions of, like health span. We've talked about like the creation in the previous episode. And why is it important to you? Why is it what you guys are doing? Like, why is that your mission?
State for Women came about really by accident. We had State for Men, and Sean kept saying to me, Sean, my husband, oh, you should take this, maybe you should take this. And I was like, oh, I don't need it. I've always been really healthy, with my background, never had any women's issues. But then we had a number of women actually taking the State for Men because they were reading the ingredients and were getting really good results, especially women in their mid-40s who were perimenopausal. And so we asked the science team, look, is this safe to take for women to take this formula? It's a herbal formula. And they said, it's not only safe, it's actually really beneficial. So, and there used to be a product on the market that contained one of the ingredients of our 10, and they had to stop selling it because it got too expensive, because they did a traditional model where they sold to a distributor and then a wholesaler and then the retailer. So they couldn't, they just couldn't justify jacking up the price with the margins they had to, there's only so many ways you can cut the pie. So anyway, so I thought, okay, well, if we're going to do State for Women, I need to try the product, because I can't sell something with integrity if I have no idea what it does to the body or how it makes me feel. And as I said, I didn't suffer from anything other than just, the normal stuff that I accepted as normal as a woman, once a month, just being knocked for six with a headache and just kind of going, oh gosh, I feel like crap, lower back pain. But I started taking it and it's like, well, like I really feel much better. And especially I was going through a stressful time personally, with just some issues that I had to deal with. And it kind of just, it evened it out as well. It just evened out the stress and the chronic stress. Then now, 5-6 years later, I always forget how old I am, whether I'm 45 or 46. I'm probably 46. Yes. And, being in that stage of life where, perimenopausal, it's like, wow, I actually, from taking the product, and I do experiments with myself where I stop taking something to see if it actually makes a difference. And if I can't notice a difference, well, why would I take it? I'm just wasting money and creating expensive wee. So I was like, wow, my night sweats have gone away. I feel so much better, and I don't get sick. Obviously zinc and selenium, and also chronic, deficiency of zinc and selenium, and having chronic stress can lead you to just your immune system gets compromised. So that's where I kind of thought, wow, there's actually really something in this, not only for me, but if I'm noticing benefits, wow, if somebody has, severe or more acute or chronic health issues from women, women's health issues, then they must be getting amazing benefits too, or could do. And it's such a big thing for women in terms of thinking that we just have to accept that that's just part of being a woman. just soldier on, especially these days. If you're a professional woman, you go to work, then you come home and then you look after the kids, and then you have to cook a meal, which then goes, oh, we'll have to throw something quickly together, and then we're stressed. And then, just men and women, we're just so stressed these days. That's really where I thought, wow, there's actually really something in this for women. That's where we thought, yeah, let's take this seriously and actually create the Stait for women.
Yeah. No, I think I love that. That's a great point. Samantha, I think it's women are in a different dynamic now. Saying they're professional, they are the parent, and then they're still wanting to do their goals. So it's like, how do they handle all that? I think they need some support. I think, the Stait for men, then building out the Stait for women just makes sense. And it's funny because this concept of like just soldiering on, I think it's just a general idea that people just like accept your fate and accept what's going on with you and just handle. And I just don't think that's like the best way to do things, because I want a high quality living, right? And I think for women, it's the same thing, right? Marcos and I are privy to working with women kind of like in certain stages of life, whether that be pre, peri, or post menopause, and even before then or way after that. And it's critical. It's a critical window. And I think what you guys are doing for women is amazing, because you want to be able to. Sorry, my light turned off here. Be able to support them in these times. And I think like if that product can just make that much of a difference, where hey, night sweats are gone, I feel better, I have more energy, you start realizing like, what else is there, right? I don't have to accept this fate. I can really start delving into my own, or really just make sure I'm supported for that active life that I'm making.
Well, I also read a really terrible statistic, and it was based in the US, about the number of couples who go through divorce. And when women were talking to their psychologist as to why, it was all around menopausal years, and because they felt that they weren't attracted to their husband anymore. And it had nothing to do with the fact that they weren't attracted to their husband. It was just the fact that they were going absolutely nuts because they were going through that life change, and they didn't really understand that there was something that they could do to mitigate that, to actually change that, and realize it's actually got nothing to do with my husband. My husband's an amazing guy. I'm actually, not me personally, but those women, it was something like 80% of divorces during that stage.
Well, what to do, Marcos? We're at prime time. Start slowing. Start selling some Stait for women. That way before those years come.
I mean, yeah. Granted, my wife is about to be 37. So, I'm 32. She's 5 years older than me. And, I nudge her, I give her some shit. I'm like, hey, how's it feel to get closer to 40 than 35? And she's like, get the hell out of here. I was like, yeah, you're a master's athlete now. But in that context too, like, because of obviously our day jobs, I'm like, you say these things, or you have these thoughts that like, I don't understand why I wouldn't want to have maybe some like hormone replacement therapy or something. I was like, but you're not there yet, babe. Like we're in the trenches collectively now. Like Seamus and I are like 10 years into like clinical, right? And I'm like, when women come into here in this complex problem and nothing seems like it can rectify it, you will probably look for anything and leave no stone unturned, right? So you ultimately want to make sure that you consider those things. Yeah, giving an earlier start to it could be really helpful.
There's no time better to start when you're in your 30s. And it's like, whether it's anything, whether it's strength training or nutrition or supplementation with, hormonal stuff. It's like, with some, and that getting back to the whole nutrition thing of preventative care as well. It's like, you don't want to wait until you're needing, serious help where it's, too late. It's like, hey, what could you do now to help just smooth out that process, no matter what you're going through in life? And there's so much stuff out there these days, and so many great people creating great products to help that, us being one of them.
I know that you were mentioning, we were talking earlier, I think even before the camera came on, was just these small little things that we could do as people. What are some of those things that women can do that are just the small things that they're not even thinking about, that can really make a big difference, that minimum effective dose, right? That, look, this is a simple change, but look at the upside, What are some things women aren't thinking about?
So I always go back to the basics of the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the food we eat, and also what we put on our body. So if we start with the water, just get a good water filter. And, where does your water come from? Don't drink out of a plastic bottle. Get a glass one or a stainless steel one. The air we breathe, have you got mold toxicity in your home, or, good quality air filter, or, just for your home, or just get outdoors, especially in a city. Go for a hike. or get to the beach and, get exposed to all those negative ions, or to, wherever you like, a park, even if you work in the density of New York, go to the park in New York, or you just get your feet on the ground and just feel that connection with your feet on the earth. And, these things don't cost the earth, they don't cost a fortune. It's something everyone can do. And, focus on your breathing, in the bath every evening. I love to just really do that box breathing and just let go of all the stress of the day or anything that's come up, and just, really inhale and exhale. Inhale, the essential oils that I put in my bath, and hold, count for 4 seconds, and then exhale for 4 seconds. And I just, visualize and imagine anything that's causing me upset or stress, just exhale it from my body. Then go into foods. I mean, that's where I could go into huge detail. I mean, my big thing is know the source of your food. Like a chicken breast is not a chicken breast. You know what I mean? Like if one's pumped full of hormones and it's huge chicken breast, and, it's just water and a Frankenstein of injections, and going from egg to chicken in however, like 18 days or whatever some of them do it. It's like the chicken that we eat, they're tiny little chicken breasts, but it's regeneratively farmed. And I know the farmers that and the cows, they eat grass. They're finished on grass. They don't have any bovia, this new thing to stop cows farting, injected into them. Don't know if that's hit the US yet, but it's certainly here in Australia. Little things like that. Get to know where your food's coming from. Just, it doesn't take long. And then the body, what are you putting on your body? Us as women and men, more so these days, which is great. The deodorants or the soaps or the shampoos, or especially women with makeup. There's great alternatives out there that actually improve your health whilst you're actually doing your daily grooming, and they don't cost a lot. You don't need 6 different face creams in your bathroom. You just need one, a good one.
No, I agree. I think it's so funny you're saying this. I was talking to my brother about this because I have a dry skin disorder, psoriasis. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with like what you eat, but mine's really maintained really well. But things to put on my body, and it's so crazy because there's like products that are like, oh, put this on, put that on. And it's like the PUFAs and the forever chemicals, or like the plastics that are in there. I'm like, not about that. I'll go get a glass of coconut oil, and I'm like, put some tea tree oil in it, mix it up. I'm like, I like that a little bit better than, I like that a little bit more than the really, highly processed like lotions and stuff like that. I just try to be as, just source things a little bit better, like you're saying.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of my other big passions is skincare. It's what I've done for 20 years as well as the food thing. Because I think there's what we put in our body and what we put on our body is just important. The skin is a major organ, and it's semi-permeable. What goes through the lymphatic system into the bloodstream, and then affecting the major organs.
Okay, coconut oil is a good move with tea tree oil.
Say again, sorry?
Coconut oil with some tea tree oil is a good move.
Yeah, fantastic move. Fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. But I mean, what I love is that, tallow is a really great for the skin as well. And I use that on my face at the moment. And some of them just smell gnarly. It's like, I don't put tallow on your skin, then play bite games with your dogs, bite toy games.
Nice. Is that pretty good? Is that a good?
Yeah, well, it just has this natural affinity. It's got really good fat. It's obviously the fat from animals. I use the beef tallow. I use a really great brand from Canada for my face, and and it's deodorized, so I don't smell like cow fat. But funnily enough, that you say you use coconut oil on your body with tea tree. Our skin balm from Stait is coconut oil based as well. So I use that on my body, which is great. So yeah, there's so many great alternatives. And so you're going back to your original question with women, it's just be curious and be really, really curious, because there's so many great people doing fantastic things, which actually can not only improve your health, but improve the way you look as well. Because let's face it, we live in a world where we actually do care about how we look, and you can't
Marcos and I are on the all day, we gotta be predictable, right, Marcos?
I mean, yeah, it's funny because you kind of queued up the question indirectly that I was going to ask next. And so you obviously have the balm that you mentioned. Are there other ones? I have not gone to the women's website, and I apologize, but it's more, you know what? People that haven't heard it, it's probably a good thing. It's like, what could I expect to see on here? And then, like, obviously, because you have that passion for skincare specifically, right? Does it mean there's like a different approach to like how you're going to obviously formulate products for women? Because you're obviously taking this holistic lens as well, right?
We have the same products for women and men. Like in my bathroom at home, Sean and I use the same stuff. We just do, you know what I mean? Like, oh, he doesn't use my makeup, okay? So not that, but we use the same skincare, we use the same body care, we use the same body wash, we use the same toothpaste and all that kind of stuff. So for the women, what we wanted to do with the skincare range with Stait is make it multifunctional and very basic, just to cut out all the excess that you actually don't really require. So we have a wash, which is fantastic. It doubles as a shaving foam, so shave under my arms. Also great for guys who like to shave their face, as a body wash, and also a shampoo if you don't color your hair. If you're a woman and you put highlights in your hair, don't use it because it's a little bit too drying. Extra stuff for that. It's also great for washing your makeup brushes. The skin balm is fantastic. It's got hemp oil and coconut oil and a number of essential oils in there, and the hemp's grown here, not so far away from where we actually live in northern New South Wales in Australia. So the skin balm is fantastic as an all-over body lotion. It's actually, what we found out as well, is really great for tattoos. Guys with, big tattoo sleeves on their arms. One of our friends, he uses it for that, and he's like, oh, this is amazing. He also uses it before he goes in the pool because it protects his skin from the chlorine he feels. It gives him a coating of nice oil to make sure his skin doesn't dry out too much from chlorinated pools. But yeah, fantastic body lotion, body oil. Like, it's like a balm, but it kind of not too oily, but like a matte oil finish just for legs and arms for me. And then there's the muscle balm, which is fantastic. It's like a natural version of those deep heat style balms, which really help with muscle aches and pains and pre-training or post-training.
Ooh, I like it. It's got a bunch of different oils in it. Like, I love the smell of cedarwood, by the way. Like,
Yeah.
cedarwood oils are like some of my favorite smell. I have this little those air fresheners in the car. I have this like more organic version where it's like a piece of wood that you just clamp on, and you just, what's it called, put it in oil, the Ziploc bag, and put it in oil. And right now, what do I have? I have sandalwood in there, eucalyptus, and then.
Bro, are you lying? You have little trees in your car and
Are
on
you
the
serious?
dashboard.
Car, man? No, you're gonna see my car later. But there's another one. It's another smell that I really love. I'm gonna have to send it to you later. But yeah, like, just douse it in essential oil.
Yeah, you got to ditch those toxic little trees, though. Go with your little wooden one with natural essential oils, because
Yeah.
they're nasty. Those gas station ones that you find.
No, I was totally busted his balls. Don't. He doesn't actually use it.
So you'll see. It's good.
But yeah, I feel like Seamus is part hippie, and he's really a stickler, especially with like his skin condition. And same thing with me and my kids; they both deal with a little bit of skin issues as well. So we're looking at very simple ingredient products.
Well, our gut health is so disturbed at the moment, really, in modern life, and so much of our skin issues is related to our gut. And if we can help improve our gut, I don't know if you guys know of or ever take it's just a powder called fossil shell flour or diatomaceous earth, which it is, and that really helps with the gut.
What? Yeah, tell me about that. Yeah. What? So what? So I've heard of diatomaceous earth. I haven't heard of the other one. Like, what's the protocol there? Like, is it just something you take as a supplement day to day? Like, yeah, how does that look like?
So it's the same thing. Fossil shell flour and diatomaceous earth, it's the same thing, just the same thing, just a different name. We actually make our own chocolate at home and we put diatomaceous earth in the chocolate. But yeah, I also just have it daily. It's good for parasite cleanse too. They feed it to animals to help with parasites and worms. And we've got 2 dogs at home, and my dogs love sticking their tongue in my mouth to wake me up in the morning and licking my face. And one of them particularly is very kissy, and my dogs are clean. But it's like, they're pretty feral too. We live on a farm and they're eating kangaroo droppings and stuff like that. And it's fantastic. You've been rolling in cow shit and now you're going to lick my face. Thank you very much. So I like to take preventative care and take fossil shell flour every day just to ensure not only my gut health is really good, but also if any of those.
How do you do that? Is it just like a little powder you just put in your water, or like in a thing?
Yeah. It's a white powder. You don't want to inhale it. They say be careful not to inhale it. I don't know why, but don't inhale it. But yeah, just mix it with water or put it in your smoothie, just a teaspoon every day. And amazing for gut health. Parasites, worms, it's high in silica, as I said, and a whole host of other things. But really cheap, really inexpensive. But
I've never heard of that application for diatomaceous earth. Like, you know what, you want to know what I've heard diatomaceous earth for is like bed bugs. Like, you're supposed to put it like all over your house if like you have bed bugs or something like that. Because I think like 20 years ago when I was in high school or something, I don't know, middle school, like our house, like my bed had it, and like you're supposed to grab. But I've never heard it for eating. So hey, learning something new, Marco. That's what Samantha out here with the knowledge bombs, man.
The food, the proper, I think there's, because it is an animal product, they give it to farm animals or spread it. So yeah, make sure you get the one that's for humans.
I don't know. Sometimes I feel like the animals here in the U.S. eat better than us humans.
I don't think about what my dogs eat.
No, I do agree though. I mean, it's fascinating how, so when Seamus and I kind of broke into the industry, there was a lot of these kind of like, again, the more like holistic bodybuilders in a sense, right? Or holistic, just like wellness coaches. And a lot of the stuff they were saying wasn't necessarily validated by like modern science. And then here we are now getting further along, and everything is just having this kind of conversion point. And they're like, yeah, you probably need to potentially look at like leaky gut or, intestinal permeability, or you might need to look at insert other thing here. And what you're describing too, like one of the mainstays of your, main driver product, right? That you said that you obviously like took in, cut out, brought it back in, was like, again, like managing stress, cortisol, and all those things, and all those different types of herbs really helping with that relationship of, if the body's like, again, if the mind and body's overly stressed, well, guess what? The gut's probably having some sort of downstream effect, and or they're both feeding off of each other, right? Like if the gut's bad and then you're taking this other thing, like you have to work on this synergy. And, obviously being able to kind of like look at those individual things, people will often wonder like, where do I start? And that's obviously like the great place of having like the bundle that you guys have, and then being able to like kind of like, okay, well, but which one made the difference? And it's like trying to tell people, it's like both, right? Like you need this synergy, obviously, because again, like you're saying, like with skin issues, for example, your skin could be directly impacted by the food that you're eating, or the food you're not absorbing could be having some deleterious effects. And it's really interesting because it makes me think about the future of wellness, right? The future of like health span. And like what do you feel like in terms of holistic wellness that you would want to maybe like kind of debunk for people that are listening today? Like, how are you guys addressing it, right? How are we making holistic stuff for the masses and understanding it deeper?
What would I like to debunk? I would like to debunk the food pyramid. I would like to debunk everything that we've literally been told about food, or most of what we've been told about food is just factually incorrect. I mean, I come from, as I said, a nutritional background. So what's my training and my experience and my understanding is that the source of the food is the most important thing, as opposed to the dietitians. And people are going to argue with me black and blue about this. I don't care. That, I hear so much online that there's no difference to a chocolate bar, a conventional, and I won't name any brands, but like, a really crappy chocolate bar and an apple, because it's still sugar and fruit, or, still sugar, and the body can't recognize the two. Now, if you're telling me that an organically or biodynamically grown apple is the same as a bar, which has got high fructose corn syrup and a whole host of other preservatives and colorings and everything like that, is the same for the body, you've lost me. Like, game over. I'm out. Because an apple is full of fiber, it's full of pectin, it's full of all sorts of things for the body to actually be able to use in a very beneficial way, unless, of course, it's sprayed to the hilt with glyphosates and all the other crap out there.
Yeah. I mean, look, again, we've had a multitude of different esteemed guests on here at this point, and they have talked about, again, we're like, well, what do you do? Like you're in the literature, you're in the research, you know that quote unquote certain things don't make it different from a macro perspective. But at the end of the day, we're like, are you still hedging your bet and erring on the side of caution and going after the healthier things? Like, yeah, the stuff that's like locally sourced and organic and things like that is, they're like, again, like literature can say one thing, but like you're still gonna kind of sneak in this idea of like, kind of the holistic fallacy in a sense, right? Like I would rather err on the side of caution and get more organically sourced or, locally sourced items than, having a diet that just hits macronutrients, because ultimately those other things, like you just said, the micronutrients, the pectin, all the other stuff that could be just bioavailable and easy to digest and get in, are right there. Like nature has created some really awesome foods for us to consume. And it really was even the basis of like my conversation with kids today. It's like, hey, I want 80 to 90%, you know, because they're kids, they're going to have a little fun, right? Of your food to be like single food item, rice, apple, right? Like you can say the name of the thing, you know what it is. And I was like, look at that bag of Cheetos right there. Like, read the ingredients for me. I was like, can you even pronounce half the stuff that's there? And the girl was like, oh, like you're singling me out. I was like, no, I'm not calling you out. I'm just saying like, those are okay in moderation. You're going to have to, like, those are going to happen. You're a kid. It's like, but more often than not, you know, what we're going to try to provide, what we're going to try to focus on is like, how do you make simple foods that are good for you, taste good for you too, right? Like again.
Well, here's the question, Marcos. It's like, it comes down to common sense. Like back in the day when all of these new foods didn't exist and grandma and grandpa or great grandma and grandpa were out farming and they all had their own little veggie patch, all that kind of thing. They didn't suffer these gut issues. They didn't suffer all these things. And so why is it that so many kids have so many gut issues these days? Why is it that, diabetes is on the rise? Why is it that all these emotional ADHD or, whatever we want to label them, why are kids just starving of nutrition? Or why are there all these new illnesses? Or why is the level of autism going up? Why, all these questions, why didn't they suffer from that back in the day?
Great question. And I wanted to just reiterate, like, I know you said common sense, but what is wild? It's not so common. And you know what's even harder? So I had a big conversation. I think this is how I won my fiance over, by the way, guys. Did a presentation on obesity like my first year in college. And I'm not even talking about how the food is made. It's how it's marketed to you. How this stuff is penetrated into the market, into the psychology, the zeitgeist, where kids look and, where they see. And it's insane. Like the colors, the shapes, like Fruit Loops, Trix, like all the popular cereals. Like, why do you think they're the number one bestsellers? Because there's a freaking, funny cartooning like bunny that like is like a mascot that like the kid wants to see commercials of and play games with, and like McDonald's has this freaking monthly freaking play toy that comes out all the time. It's not even that. I think it's like how the consumer has been so penetrated with it being in their face all the time, and then parents are like, all right, we'll just go get it. I think the one-off is fine, but I think, like we said, if it's not 80-90%, like Marco said, like, yeah, we got an issue.
Yeah. And I'd be lying to say that I'm not trying to go and market to kids more, but I'm trying to market to kids about things that would be like health promoting and get their parents on board. Because like you said, common sense tells the parents that we need to make a change, but we don't know how. So if in steps somebody that like looks the part and wants these kids to perform better, guess what? They're going to help dictate what the parents are eating too. So it's like a backwards way of approaching quote unquote marketing, because it's like, if I can win the kids over and have fun with them and I make food this like really fun conversation and they learn to do something, then guess what? The parents will be on board, because ultimately these parents, and again, this is like almost sports specific, but I would feel like it's everybody. Like I'm not just saying like I can only really reach who I can reach. And right now it's kids in sport, right? But if it then turns into like, well, let's go into schools. Fun fact, Samantha, all of our schools here, our public education system, give free lunch and breakfast to every kid in our district. Mind you, I would love to know how much food they waste, because I know that it's probably tons of it.
Oh, tons.
Thousands of tons every year. It's insane. Problem is, you have these big conglomerates that are coming in that have the market share, whatever it is, Cisco or whatever it could be, whatever that company is. And they're not creating foods that kids even want to eat, but they're profiting off of it. So it's going to take people from our space and the lens of like trying to help create an environment that helps, support that at the end of the day. But like you're saying, dude, like the crazy thing is like, yeah, tricks are for kids. It's like, oh yeah, kids want to feel exclusive. Like, yeah, mom, dad, you can't have my tricks. You know what I mean? Like the marketing dollars and like the thought process and the psychology behind it is also like very evident, and it's very smart. And we know kids are easily swayed into these things and they want to be a part of that thing. And you know what? It's going to kind of suck that my kids might feel like they're a little bit like of an outcast. Like legit, like Samantha, my daughter could go to school with a can of sardines and probably eat it, but she's 4. Imagine how humiliated she might be if she's 8 doing the same thing. Right? They're going to be teased. It's like, oh, you eat that. Next thing you know, it's like, I don't want to eat this anymore. My friends they're making fun of me because I'm eating like healthy foods. Like it's crazy how like the social standing of those things also play a huge role. And, hopefully being able to, I would love to do what Japan does. Like every school has a health professional there explaining the importance of everything that's on these kids' plates. It's also why they have such a better grasp on health overall, because they're getting educated and we've removed that. It's, again, like you just said, common sense would say, like, why don't we go look at all these other populations that are doing things incredibly well and just imitate it?
This goes into another thing that you know, with the question you're asking, what would you like people to know? It's like the number of people who look online and get health advice from people who are really unhealthy. It's like what you were saying, Marcus, is like, why don't we actually look at the people who are actually really healthy up until the age of 100? You know, there are communities like that. Why would we get advice, nutrition advice, from somebody who is not healthy? It's like, well, it
And
just
Marcos and
blows
I,
my mind. Or somebody who has no idea what they're talking about, but they want to become, and good on them, they really want to become a holistic health coach or whatever. So they do this month course and they go, this is what I've learned, and this is what you need to do. And it's like, hats off to you to wanting to do something out there, but you might want to get a bit more solid understanding as opposed to wanting to become an instant success, because there's no such thing as an instant expert.
yeah, this is what I tell my clients, and I think Marcos and I were talking about this, how certain people in this field, yeah, I think they need to follow what they're saying a little bit and some more. There's a difference between knowing, like, I know what it is to eat it, but then actually to own it, to it be part of your identity, behaviors, actions, and routines, where it's like, I don't need to know Marcos knows his stuff. Because when he takes off his shirt, I'm like, damn, you know, like he looks good, you know? I don't need to know that about him when he performs a CrossFit workout or something like that. It's like, it is innately within him because he's built that up. So when you ask him a question like, hey, how do you perform? How do you eat? What he's going to say is going to be more profound than like someone with a bunch of certifications. They know the knowledge from a textbook, from the research, but they don't necessarily know how to apply. And I think that's where we have to bridge the gap of knowledge, application, and living it, and being a leader for it. Like Marcos is saying, like I think the reason why these kids really connected with him and people didn't expect that, because he's also the guy. He could probably outlift those kids, you know? So they're kind of like, oh shoot, like this guy can do it. And he's saying, eat my veggies, you know, for example.
Yeah,
It's got
I mean,
integrity, doesn't it, really?
yeah, exactly. Like, again, I had a one-on-one meeting with somebody in a business networking group that I'm in, and he asked me the question, what are you doing this for? Like, what, like, quote unquote, like, what's your why, in a sense? And I'm like, it's funny you asked that question, because before it was like definitely vanity, obviously. Like, I wanted to look good naked. Like, that's what got me started. That's why I started doing CrossFit in the first place, because I like see a bunch of college people looking like they're in shape, and I was like, let me go do what they're doing, right? It was evident that like the methodology was working. It also looked like it was fun. I mean, yeah, people were suffering, but like, all right, cool. But as it's evolved now, and I get to like be entrenched in different gym communities and or with kids or whatever, professional life, and in a multitude of ways now, you know, the thing I tell them is like, I just want to have the ability to go and play. Like, quite honestly, it's like, my son's like, I don't want to be stuck and glued to the couch and being like, yeah, I'm not going to take you to the park today, Zeke. Like, I want to just go do it with you. I don't want to, and in it, like, kind of like, I don't know if my son understands this yet, but when he does, he's like, you're really like pent up on the sideline watching me play. Why is that? It's like, because I want to be fucking out there, dude. I want to do it with you. Like, you know, like it's killing me on the inside to not be able to do it with you. But like, you know, Seamus, thanks for the platitude or the platitudes and making me flattered. But, you know, is this the best version of me visually right now? The answer would be no. Like, there could be harder dieting and like getting more into it. But then I also understand that there is a fine line of like getting almost too lean. And then you have to figure out like where you can perform your best cognitively as well. And also physically, right? So, you know, being able to also have that nuance, especially with a kid, it's like, hey, I know y'all going through puberty right now. I know you want to look good to impress the ladies, right? Ironically, the other person today, she was like, yeah, if the boys, you learn how to cook, you're going to learn how to rizz up the girls. And I was like, oh my God. Like, again, we have to relate in Gen Z slang. It was the funniest thing ever. I was like, oh, I didn't say it, she did.
Chef Riz.
But it made a ton of sense, because, you know, we're wanting to, again, lead by example. And also too, like, I wanted them to understand there's nuance. What myself, health coach, and what I eat is going to be massively different from you, student athlete, right? It's massively different than your other, you know, your teacher here, who also was at one point a high level athlete playing college soccer, right? And you have to understand that like there are some basic fundamental things that are very easy to wrap your head around that we just need to get down incredibly well. Like you just said, your qualms with the food pyramid. I asked that question today. It's like, show of hands, who knows what a food pyramid is? And none of the kids raised their hand today. It was crazy. I was like, almost like, thank God. It's like, you haven't seen that. Thank God. And the belief of what we can kind of create now, like you just said, like the online influencers and things like that. You're right. A lot of them can get something done in a weekend, in a sense, or just get a certification slapped to it. And I feel like Seamus and I have been collecting them like they're part of our Infinity Stone gauntlet in order to like level up in life. But each one of them have similarities, and they all bring up some nuance to different components. And we're continuing to try to educate ourselves, because maybe there are other people out there that might have learned something new that we don't know yet. But at the end of the day, it boils down to, it seems like a lot of people are talking about a lot of the similar stuff, in different camps, right? If people are carnivore or carnivore 2.0 or, plant-based or whatever. And we're just, again, like, you just understand that, like, you can't be dogmatic in one thing, and some persons in this challenge I'm doing right now, I'm still going to talk about the benefits of why you might want to include meat. I told them, like, hey, you're going to have to supplement some protein here, because it's going to be really hard for you to eat it all from vegetables, right? Like, there are other nutritional requirements. And so, yes, there's a little bit of nuance in this, but I think part of the other information that gets disseminated now is to make it feel like it's harder than it needs to be, and that they need you. And I'm trying to do the opposite. Is like, I'm going to teach you how to do this and then not need me. Like, that's it. My goal is that, point and draw. I want you to stay around because you like me, not because you need me.
Yep, I love that.
I mean, I used to be really staunch vegan, and now I'm like completely flipped the opposite, and I just love, the raw and the meat, the better. In fact, I eat a lot of raw meat, and that gets back to my original, because it's not about what you are in terms of the label, it's about the source or where you get your food from. And I think it's so true what you say, Marcos, veganism, and I really don't like isms, but it's so popular and being pushed these days. But if you don't have the understanding of how to actually get your protein and how to combine those proteins to get the net protein utilization, then exactly what you say, Marcos. You're not going to get the required protein and those building blocks to repair your body, especially during times of change and growth. So you really need to know what you're eating, how you're combining it. And I know for me, especially now that I'm in my mid to late 40s, meat for me, and just basing my diet primarily on meat and really good source meat just works so much better. And that's just me personally, but in my 30s being vegan, that really worked for me. But I look better now, I function better now, and not that I functioned worse back then, but not that I functioned poorly back then. I wasn't sick, but it's only because I had the background in nutrition to know how to combine those foods to get the actual, and supplement with, things like the ingredients that are now in our superfood blend, like, alfalfa and moringa and maca and all those kind of things, which, combined together help.
Why'd you transition? What, like, I mean, you obviously, when, again, you switched camps in a sense, but like something had to have been pivotal to create that change.
It was really weird. Sean and I were just at home, and because we were both vegan, we both were, and we just were like, we really feel like meat. I love raw meat. Like beef carpaccio, steak tartare. When I cook meat, it's like literally just seared. And so we both just were like, maybe let's just give it an experiment and let's just go full carnivore. So we literally flipped overnight. And honestly, I can't tell you why, but it was just like this. We're very big on our intuition, and we base a lot of our life on what our gut tells us. And we both just had this big moment, and that's what's beautiful about our relationship. We're just so in sync with each other, and when we both kind of get these, let's do this, I was just thinking that, and it's like, are you reading my thoughts or am I reading your thoughts? And we just flipped, and we literally went from eating vegan to just meat, and we're like, whoa. So for a month. And it was
so the vegan approach was not like out of ethical considerations for animals or anything like that. Because I know that's like usually the biggest thing is like, I feel bad for animals is like what most people will tell me.
Yeah, for me, that was a big thing. Also, health reasons. I'm a big advocate of what Don Tolman talks about. And I think if you are chronically ill, then I personally do subscribe to his method of veganism. He's not veganism, sorry, that's a really inaccurate expression. He's very plant-based, but he does advocate for raw milk and things like that, especially with children with mental disorders and things like that, because he's seen so much positive results with it. But I think, and this is where I've come to, it's like, as you say, we never stop learning. It's like, I think it's really got to do with the source. And yes, I think you can be a healthy plant-based person. There's clear evidence about it, especially with athletes and things like that. But you can also be extremely unhealthy. So it comes back to the source. So
Yeah.
But yeah, the going full 100% meat was a little bit too much for us. So now we have a really nice balance.
That's so funny, Samantha. It's quite hilarious that you did that. I love that you had the intuition. Me and my fiance Desiree, she's a clinical dietitian, so she kind of, runs some things by the books. I kind of like to, as Marco say, be a little bit more hippie and try some things out, be a little bit more on the edge. But we did the whole thing too, where I went full plant based, then I went full carnivore after, and then went full like the bulletproof diet at some point or whatever. But it was all around, a lot of it was around performance, physique, and just kind of like, my day to day energy. But a lot of it was around like my psoriasis. I was like trying to find something that was anti inflammatory and that really just worked well with my gut. And what was weird, and I know this sounds weird, I think what I've learned about myself, and I'm so happy to be in this field because I've like learned so much about myself. Like I've had to learn a lot about my genetics and stuff like that. But I've actually learned that just a balanced gut with a few different things helps me manage my symptoms pretty well, and like things are good. And I can have carbohydrates, whereas some of these psoriasis books are like, no, you can't have any of these things. I'm like, I think it's an N of one. I think that I had to go through so many different iterations of what was good for me. The plant based made my skin worse. The carnivore, funnily enough, for some reason, it made it worse too. And then when I brought back different foods and then had different fiber sources and different digestive enzymes and probiotics, everything smoothed out. And I was like, huh. So I'm kind of like, for me, I think I lean a little bit more Mediterranean diet right now. And that, like, if you follow, for me, what's been following that has been really, really well. I don't follow any camp. I don't really label the diet. I just label what works for me. But if it were to summarize in one word, it would probably because it falls in those foods. But yeah, it's a hard bargain for a person to not follow their intuition, right? Like you're saying, Samantha, and like be stuck in a camp because it's their tribe, or they just thought the government said things. And it's like, if you can't have the wherewithal to experiment or try, and you just get stomped, this is why you're gonna get stuck.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, dogma in any shape or form can't be good. Scary things happen when people have this belief system, that's so strong. It's like I remember meeting a girl who was vegan. She's like, everyone who eats meat should die. And it's like, whoa, that's kind of really extreme, and maybe temper that a bit because, what about the Eskimos? They can't grow plants. So yeah, there's a lot we can learn by following our gut and actually letting go of any dogma and actually just having a little bit of compassion and understanding of like, everyone's different. What works for me may not work for you, and what works for you may not work for me, and etc. So it's good for you for working out what works for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, constantly learning, constantly evolving, and very, very much so open minded. And I think for both Seamus and myself, in our most recent couple of years in doing like a more of a health coaching specific certification, where and I had to like remove some of those other biases, like in learning how to meet people where they're at a bit more. I think that helped us grow immensely with understanding how to actually approach those conversations with people, because your beliefs are going to be your beliefs, and those are things that might be rooted with you, and they might have been formed because of upbringing, family, religion, you name it. And then just to kind of be like, all right, cool, I need to hear this person through, and we should emerge on this journey together with, me providing as much context and information in the beginning as possible. But then hopefully, like, not trying to change their mind, but hopefully that they'll be open to trying those things. Point in case for me is like, hey, I need something like of a journal of food so we can see what's going on. But I don't need you to like learn how to log food yet. I can give you an app that literally just lets you take a picture so that I know that you're trying to hit on what's important to you and how we can build a plan to be better. Right. And then it leads to then, for whatever reason, if I give people that, they're like, no, I'll just log it for you. I'll learn how to like weigh and measure. I'm like, I'm not telling you I don't need it. I'm not. And they're like, no, I'm going to do it. Like, because you basically called me out without calling me out. And I was like, okay, whatever.
Good tactic, Mark.
In the essence of time, we've reached 1 hour, and I know we can continue to talk about this probably, in perpetuity. But I do have one kind of closing question, and Seamus, if you have one, I'll have you go too. But are there any like new products that you guys are working on that you're excited about that you can share with us potentially? Or is it kind of like you guys have kind of really figured the lifeblood for right now and just more excited to kind of get into different markets?
Yeah, we are working on products, and we're constantly thinking, well, is it suitable for us, or are we just wanting to create everything? Well, most things are created for us, so it's most likely going to be on inflammation or something along those lines, because gosh, so many people are inflamed in so many different areas. So I would imagine, but I can't say for certain, because we do have a list of wishful products, but it's also we've got to check in with ourselves and going, well, is it staying true to our brand, or is it just something that we want to do because we love it?
Well, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. I got no questions, Marcus. I just wanted to say, Samantha, thank you so much for your time. It's so nice to see like this holistic side plus the science side kind of blend, and like have someone like yourself, being the frontier of that message, especially coming from then now coming into the market here in the U.S. I think Marcos and I always find that great products speak for themselves, but beyond the great product, like we were talking about before our conversation, is the great people behind it, the great community. And I think State has great people in it, with you and Sean, but also the great community that you guys have created. So it's so cool to be a little bit part of that now. So we really appreciate you allowing us into your guys' circle.
Thank you, Seamus. Thank you, Marcos. Like, as I said, I'm flattered that you invited me on, and it's been really great talking to you. And
Of course, yeah. I mean, thank you for giving us insight and some, additional wisdom, and talking about a lot of other things that would be, really great for the audience to hear. Again, it's cool to know that, like you just said, it's like staying true to the brand, in addition to like, yes, it'd be nice to have this, but is it best suited for us? And, in our previous episode, that would have been, in terms of sequence of release, it would have come out probably before this episode. But it was a conversation that happened today. The fact that there's so many people in the space really trying to focus on integrity and being able to actually help people with their, with true causes, and, believing in what their mission is like, again, over and over again, it feels like that particular component is like super necessary, that authenticity in today's world, and to be able to develop things and, again, get more of that anecdotal kind of evidence from people and let them kind of sing the praises is great. And we know that our colleague Jason, he's been very high on using a lot of your supplements. It's what led to this, these conversations with yourself, with Sean, and then also with, some of the other people that's an extension of you guys. And we're super grateful to have had you and everybody else that's like part of your team, and, working with you guys as well. Obviously we're continuing to grow, everybody. Hopefully you guys are gathering a lot of insight. Other people in different parts of the world focusing on the same thing. We must be onto something. So all of Samantha's info is down below, as well as the links for, State, so you guys can go check them out. We've used the products. Definitely a believer. Definitely can feel like that stress reduction with using like their mainstay product. And then obviously, I will also like to shout out the creatine and EAA blend. I think it's great. I use that pretty regularly. I'm trying not to use it all up because I didn't know what the availability would look like in our market, but now I see that it is available. So I'm going to make sure I get a little bit more of it in. Making creatine, high quality creatine monohydrate from Creapure, which is like one of the hardest, most rigorous places to actually get, after we learned that from Sean, into that is amazing. Granted, I don't think I see any US products that really have it anymore. So if you're looking for like, again, top-notch creatine in a recovery blend, it's great. Lemon lime flavor. I can vouch for it that I usually fill it up with more water than you guys recommend. I kind of like sipping on it. So it's like, it's great when it's mixed with like 40 ounces of water. I know you guys only use about 500 and kind of use it as like a, post-workout thing. Again, to speak to that and for you guys to be gracious to give us, that was amazing. So yeah, links below, everybody. Thank you for listening. And then until next time, Macro Perspective, we are out.